In last session, we have seen about two type of black box test cases design techniques. We have seen equivalence class partitioning. We have also seen boundary value analysis. Today we will see about decision table. So decision table is also one of the test cases design techniques. Today we will see when to use decision table technique and what exactly is decision table and how it helps for testing or test cases designing. Decision table technique is particularly useful for testing systems with multiple conditions and actions. So, whenever there are multiple conditions in test input and multiple actions as well, where each condition combination can lead to different outcomes. So, we will see one example as well. So basically just understand, so depending on multiple conditions, there can be a different outcome. To identify the test cases with decision table, we consider conditions and actions. So two important things for decision table. To create a decision table, we need conditions and actions. What is condition, what is actions, that we will see in example. It is also called as a cause effect table, where cause and effects are captured for better test coverage. Now we will first go to example directly, so we will understand in better manner. Conditions and actions. So we have to consider, for decision table we have to consider conditions and actions. So whenever we get the system or scenario or feature in which there are multiple conditions and each condition can create a different outcome. If there are multiple conditions and each condition represents some different outcome and we have to test for all the combinations of those conditions, in such situation we have to use decision table. So in such situation we have to use decision table. Let's take a simple example of login screen. So let's take an example of login screen. And if you want to create a decision table for login screen, how to create a decision table for login screen? So this login screen is having email, password and login button. If the user provides correct email and correct password and then press on login button, he should be successfully logged in and redirected to home page. That is the valid scenario for positive test case. If the user enters correct username but incorrect password, then it should show some error message to user. If the user enters correct password but incorrect email, then also it should show error message. So by using decision table, how we can create a decision table? So by using decision table, let's see how we can design the test cases for these conditions and actions. So what is the condition here? Correct email and correct password. So for that, what we will do? We will use true and false. T stands for correct email and password. F stands for false, basically, that is incorrect email ID or incorrect password. H stands for home screen, to display to the user. So this is basically action. What is the action? Home page will be displayed to the user. And what are the conditions for that action? Conditions would be, when will be the home screen displayed? Only when the user enters the correct username and correct password, that is correct email and correct password. Then only user should see the home screen. So H stands for home screen and E stands for the error message. So E is the error message to be displayed to the user. That is the action again. Now let's see, this is basically decision table, which consists of conditions and actions. What are the conditions here? Email ID, that is input. Password is again input. And what is the action? Action is nothing but the output. Now there are two type of actions. Either it could show home screen or it will show the error message. And each column here basically it represents a test case. So how to create a decision table for these multiple conditions? So username, that is the email can be correct or incorrect. Password can be correct or password can be incorrect. So for correct email we are considering true. This is the condition here. So if you see, this true means email ID is correct. Password is also correct. So password is again second input, that is also correct, means true. If both the things are true, if both these conditions are true, if email ID is true, password is true, then what is the action here? Action should be home screen because it is a correct set of email ID and password. So user would be successfully logged in and he would be redirected to home screen. So that is the H here, home screen. So this is the first test case. Now what is the next combination? Email ID is true, email ID is correct, but password is incorrect. So password is incorrect here. So correct email ID, but password is incorrect. That means it should show some error message. So here, what would be the action? Action would be the error message. So output would be some error message because password is incorrect. What is the next combination of conditions? Email ID is incorrect, but password is correct. Right? So email ID is correct. Email ID is incorrect. That means it is false. Password is correct. That means it is true. In such situation, what will happen? Action would be error message. It will show the error message to end user. This is also third test case. What is the fourth test case by decision table? So if you see, what is the condition combination here? Email ID is incorrect. F means email ID is incorrect. Password is also incorrect. F is password is also incorrect. So in such situation, what will happen? Error message will be displayed to the user. So this is the fourth test case. So each column, so if you put the combination of multiple conditions, so here we are using combination of multiple conditions together. So correct email ID, correct password, correct email ID, incorrect password, incorrect email ID, correct password, incorrect email ID, incorrect password. So these are the combinations of conditions. So we have two type of conditions and their multiple combinations. And for each combination there would be an action or output. So for every combination there is an output. So this decision table we can create in the Excel sheet, etc. In the Excel sheet, depending on the number of conditions, we can create the decision table like this, where each column is basically one test case. So how many test cases we have created here for these conditions? So there are two conditions, email ID and password. Email ID can be correct, password can be correct. Email ID is correct, password can be incorrect. Password can be correct, but email ID can be incorrect, or both email ID and password can be incorrect. So these are the combinations for these two conditions, and for them respective outcomes is also there. So this is how we have to create a decision table. So by creating the decision table like this, we can get the test cases. So 1, 2, 3 and 4. So 4 test cases we have received by the help of this decision table. First case is username and password both are wrong. So this is the case here. If you see both are wrong, that means error message will be displayed. Second case would be username was correct but the password was wrong. So username was correct, that means email was correct but password was wrong. So that is the second test case. So this is the how we can create or we can use the decision table for multiple conditions and their respective actions. So we have to form the table like this, where each column basically represents a test case. So this is how we can create the different test cases. 4 test cases are created for these combinations of incorrect email ID and incorrect password. So what are the steps we have to do to create a decision table? So what are the steps to create the decision table for test design? So first step is we have to identify the conditions and actions. So in this case, we have to first identify the conditions and actions. So what are the conditions here? Correct email ID, incorrect email ID, correct password, incorrect password. Those are the conditions. And actions are, for correct email ID and correct password, output should be home screen. For correct email but incorrect password, output should be error message. For correct password but incorrect email ID, output should be error message. If both of these incorrect, then output should be error message. So we have to first identify. So we have to identify what are the steps. We have to identify conditions and actions. What are the conditions? Conditions are the input variable or criteria that influence the decision. And actions are the outcomes or the operations that result from the conditions being met. So if you see, these are the conditions. Correct email ID, correct password. Correct email ID, incorrect password. These are conditions. So we have to identify conditions and actions. Actions is basically output. Then we have to list possible values for conditions. Now what are the possible values for conditions we have seen? So email ID can be correct or email ID can be incorrect. So two combinations. Email ID can be correct or it can be incorrect. Password can be correct, password can be incorrect. So these are the condition values. These are basically condition values. So we have to first identify condition and actions. Then we have to list all the possible values for each condition. So it can be yes or no, it can be true and false, or it can be specific range or categories as well. Then we have to construct the decision table. So after finding the conditions and actions, then we have to determine the values for each condition, and then we have to construct the decision table. So create a table with columns for each condition and action. So we have created a column for each condition and action. Then we have to use each row in the table represent a unique combination of condition values and their corresponding actions. So if you see, each row is basically combination. So in our case, it is basically a column. Each column is combination of each condition. If you see, email ID correct, password is correct, and their respective action. So each column will represent a new test case. And after constructing a decision table, what is the next step? We have to populate the table with condition and combination. So we have populated the table with combinations and conditions. So we have to populate all the conditions and combinations. And then define the resulting action for each combination. So for each combination, we have to define result. We have to define the action here. If both email ID and password is correct, then action will be home screen. If email ID is correct but password is incorrect, action will be error message. If email ID is incorrect, password is correct, action will be error message. So on, right? So we have to populate the table with condition combination, and then we have to define the resulting action for each combination. And we have to make sure that we have to make it as simple as possible. So table should be as simple to understand. So it will be easier to derive the test cases from that table. So this is the simple table which we have created for email and password combinations. And with the help of that, we have created the test cases. Now let's take another example. To understand in better way, let's see one more example of decision table. Now consider a dialog box. Now on the websites, let's say we have one upload file dialog box in which we have to upload a photo with certain conditions. And what are those conditions? So first condition is you can upload only .jpg format image. File size should be less than 32 KB. Resolution should be 137 into 177 pixels. If any of the condition fails, so if all these three condition matches, then only it will allow to upload the photo. And if any of these three condition fails, then the system will throw corresponding error message stating the issue, and if all conditions are met, photo will be updated successfully. So if all three conditions are met, then only photo will be updated. Otherwise, if any one condition also fails, then it should throw some respective error message. Now we have to define a decision table for that. So what are the steps to define the decision table? So first we have to identify the conditions. So first we have to identify the condition and action. Action is the output. Conditions is combination of different condition values. So what are the conditions here? So you can easily see three type of conditions: file format, file size, and resolution. These are the three conditions. And what are the three condition values here? First condition is file format. What are the two possibilities of the file format? It can be a .jpg, which is the valid condition, or it cannot be a .jpg, that is file format other than .jpg, the file which is not jpg, that is the second condition value. So for the file format, what are the two condition values? It can be a .jpg value or it will not be a .jpg value. These are the two conditions values. Next condition, file size. What are the two conditions possible for the file size? So file size condition value will be, it can be a 32 KB or less than 32 KB, right? So greater than or equal to 32 KB or less than 32 KB, that is the another range or condition values. Resolution, it can be either 137 into 177 or it other than this 137 into 177. These are the two conditions. And what are the outcomes? Outcomes are, depending on the failed condition, we have to show the error message. So this is how the decision table will look. So if you see, what are the three conditions we have received? Format, size, resolution. These are the three conditions we have to use in our decision table. We have to create the columns and we have to put the condition values. So for format, what are the condition values? Either it can be a .jpg or it can be a not .jpg. What is the validation for size? It can be a less than 32 KB or greater than or equal to 32 KB. What is the resolution condition? It can be 137 into 177 or other than 137 into 177. So it can be 137 into 177 or the values which are not 137 into 177. And by considering these three conditions, there could be 8 possible such combinations. So what is the first case here? First combination, where file format is .jpg, file size is less than 32 KB, but resolution is 137 into 177. That is the first case. What is the next case? File format is .jpg, values size is also less than 32 KB, but resolution is not 137 into 177. So this is another combination of conditions value, which is different than the first one. This is the second one. What is the third combination can be? File format is .jpg, but this time file size is greater than or equal to 32 KB. That is the negative test case basically. Less than 32 KB is allowed, but greater than and more than and equal to 32 KB is not allowed. And third condition is resolution is 137 into 177. That is the third combination of these conditions. Fourth test case. So fourth combination will be file format is .jpg, file size is greater than and equal to 32 KB, and resolution is not 137 into 177. That is the fourth combination. What is the fifth combination? When file size is less than 32 KB, file format is not .jpg, and resolution is 137 into 177. So this is another combination. So if you see, for the first case, that is all are the valid cases, all are the positive test case, all are the positive condition values. If the format is .jpg, file size is less than 32 KB, resolution is 137 into 177. That means all three conditions are matching. So what is the respective output or action we can say? Photo will be uploaded. This is the positive test case. For all the positive values, these are the valid values. So photo will be uploaded. Next case or next combination where format is .jpg, file size is also less than 32 KB. So these two cases are valid cases, valid conditions. But the third condition is the resolution is not 137 into 177 pixels. So this is again not a correct combination because it is not matching all the three conditions. So it should show the output. Error message should be resolution mismatch because resolution is not matching. Third condition where file format is valid, size is not valid, right? So ideally less than 32 KB should be, but it is greater than 32 KB. Greater than or equal to 32 KB is not valid. Resolution is valid here, but this condition is failing. So error message should be size mismatch. This is the error message. Fourth case where format is valid, .jpg. Again size is not valid. Size is greater than or equal to 32 KB. And also resolution is also not matching. Resolution is not matching means 137 and 177, it is not that value. So what is the error message? Size and resolutions mismatch. Fifth combination. In this, if you see size is correct, size is valid, resolution is also valid, but format is not JPG. So error message will be for format mismatch. That is the action, that is the output should come for this test case. Case 6, where format is invalid, size is valid, and resolution is not valid. So error message should be format and resolution mismatch. Seventh combination, where file size is also not matching, file format is also not matching, resolution is correct, but these two conditions are failing. So error message for format and size mismatch. Eighth case, where all the three conditions are failing. If you see, file format is not JPG, file size is greater than and equal to 32 KB, and resolution is also not 137 into 177. So error message for all the three conditions, that is format is incorrect, resolution also mismatch, and size is also mismatch. So this is the sample decision table, or this is how we can use the decision table technique to derive the test cases for multiple conditions and their values. So in our first example, if you see, in our first example, we had only two conditions. Each condition had two values. Either it can be correct email or correct password, correct email, incorrect password, correct email, etc. So in this case, there are four cases we have derived because there are only two conditions. But in this situation, there are three conditions and each condition is having two values. If you see, each condition is having positive as well as negative value. So for three conditions we have to test for all these 8 cases. Out of these 8 cases, first one is positive test case where it should give the success output, whereas remaining test cases are negative test cases with some condition failing as a invalid input. So this is the simple example of decision table and how it helps to derive the test cases for different type of conditions and their value combinations. So this is the technique of decision table. So in real time testing, you will always find such scenarios where there are different combinations of multiple conditions and multiple values of those conditions. So in such situation, we have to use decision table technique to derive the test cases. So this is about the decision table and how to create the decision table. We have to first identify the condition and actions. Then we have to list possible values for conditions. Then we have to construct the decision table. Then populate the table with condition combinations and their respective actions. Actions means output. And after doing that, you can get all the test cases. So each column is basically one test case here. You can do this activity in Excel sheet where we can create the conditions column. We can put all the conditions here and we can put all the condition values combinations here. And then we can put output as well. For each combination, there would be a respective output. It can be a positive output or it can be a negative output. Depending on which condition is failing, we have to display the respective output for that. So thank you for watching this video. In coming session, we will see about the next type of test case design technique, that is state transition. So far we have seen boundary value analysis, equivalence class partitioning, and decision table. In next lesson, we will see about state transition test case design technique.